Welcome to College Admissions Toolbox, giving you the edge you need to get into the colleges of your dreams, with your host, Steve Schwartz. That's me. Today, we're talking with Mark Greenstein.
All right, welcome to College Admissions Toolbox, Mark. I'm so excited to have you on the program today. How you doing?
Good. Thanks for having me.
Glad you're here. So now, Mark, you've got an incredible story. Now, you've been teaching test prep going on almost 30 years now. You started Ivy Bound. Could you take us to the moment in time of what you would consider your worst SAT preparation moment or your students' worst SAT preparation moment, and tell us the story of what they went through or what you went through yourself?
I can relate to at least one student who called me at 9:05 on a Saturday morning when an SAT was supposed to have started that Saturday at 8:35, and he wasn't admitted. And he is at the school, but it's the wrong school. His admission ticket was for Springfield High School in Springfield, Missouri, instead of Massachusetts. And his sign-up was all messed up. And because of this, the poor kid who had been prepping well and he had good practice test scores, he was ready to smoke it. And this it could have been devastating if he was a senior and didn't have any more chances to nail the SAT. The good news is juniors, anyway, have 7 chances during the junior year. So I talked him down off the ledge. He wasn't literally on a ledge, but he was close to in tears. He realized what his mess up was. And 2 months later, he was there for a real SAT at the right place, and he did get a great score.
Wow, that's really something. Now, that screw up with the Springfield, you said Springfield, Missouri, Springfield, Massachusetts. Was that a screw up? I assume that was more a screw up on the part of the College Board than on his part.
Well, in defense of almost all students who aren't really, really careful, signing up for these things is a big deal. It's online these days. You don't have paper forms anymore. And if you don't have a parent looking over what you're doing, there could very easily be selection city, selection school that is close to what it should be, but a little bit off base. And so people have gotten bad reads. I think enough kids can collect them in time or correct them in time because you do get a confirmation. So he must have ignored the details of the confirmation, which was telling him, go to Missouri. And instead, he just assumed, here's my ticket. I'll show up. I've got my ID and they'll be all set for me. But the SAT is not real flexible. They used to be very good about it. They used to not feel afraid of cheaters like they do now.
So, Mark, what I'm really interested in with this story here is, not all students have a parent looking over their shoulder. Not all parents even know what the student could have done to avoid this situation. I'm sure a lot of students out there live in a town like Springfield, where there are many across the country. So what could a student who lives in a town with a common name do differently to avoid showing up in one state and the College Board thinks they're somewhere else?
Read your admission ticket. 4 words. But take it seriously. It's yet another email, and I get that kids get tons of email and from bureaucratic organizations, but when it is the College Board, and your future starts with the test that the College Board is giving, follow their rules. And I'll just add to that. There's some other rules that are worth reading on there, not just where do I show up, what time are they asking me to show up, but what can I bring? What calculators are permissible? Here's something that they could do to you. If you have a very high-powered calculator, they could take it away because only certain ones are permitted. A TI 97 or I think even a TI 89, they can store formulas that they don't want students to have the advantage of popping up at will, so they don't allow those calculators. If you brought that and only that calculator, you may have it confiscated and be without any calculator for the day.
Really valuable advice right there, definitely. read those instructions, especially as, you know, you can't, I know you get tons of emails from the College Board and other colleges, but definitely in the countdown to the SAT, if it's SAT related, that's definitely a super valuable lesson to keep in mind. So thanks so much for sharing that, Mark. Any other, you know, awful experiences that you've encountered when it comes to the SAT, or is that kind of the big one?
Well, that, as I mentioned, was actually a fleeting one. It's crushing for a few days until you know that there is another testing opportunity. I guess a more widespread one is my kid never got scores that will get him into X college. And look, that's a common one, and it's becoming more and more common as the student applicant pool gets more and more competitive, and they're not opening more highly competitive colleges. They're not expanding the number of seats at Harvard and Yale and Princeton and MIT. So parents who 30 years ago got into MIT and think, well, my kid now is just as bright as I am and he works harder than I ever did, he should be a shoo-in. It's not true. Your credentials have to be monumentally better now because students are fighting against many more applicants, including foreign applicants. And colleges love foreign applicants because they add diversity. That's something the colleges have always been looking for, and they're full pay. When you want to send your Spanish kid to the U.S., that Spanish family is giving full tuition, which only about a third of U.S. families can pay. So the Spaniard, the Algerian, the Indian, the Japanese student are very appealing, and that's why college international enrollments have gone up greatly, and it comes at the expense of American students.
No, it's definitely rising competition. I know it's definitely something that's really been changing the game in the last several years. Now, I want to shift gears a little moment and move into a story of inspiration that you've seen or experienced.
I think I've worked with students who, in the process of doing vocabulary, they know they could master all the tough words on the SAT. They're not going to do it instantaneously, but I work with him, fill out this crossword puzzle. I'll give you some hints along the way. Apply these new words to these set of sentence completions and these reading comp answers, which bedevil a lot of students. So I can name, Tony for one. Allison and her friend Anthony teamed up together in semi-private tutoring, and I think both of them had the vocabulary that bedeviled them, and they got over it. I can name Andrea. I know Henry. Hank, who's different from Henry, would be in that category. Probably Thomas. I can't give last names. I think you understand why. All these have been students in my last 5 years worth of classes where the vocabulary mastery came to great SAT scores and great opportunities.
Definitely some good points you brought up there. I want to shift gears and move into the lightning round, where I'm going to ask you some rapid-fire questions. You give me some rapid-fire responses. Are you ready?
I am ready.
Great. All right. What's your number one piece of advice for the college admissions process?
Take lots of tests. The practice tests are abundant. You can get them at very little charge out of a book called The Official SAT Study Guide. And for another $70, so call that a medium charge, you could get even more. I want students to be doing at least 6 practice tests before they take their real SAT.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree more. You've got to not only learn the material, but also learn the process of working through all that material in a time setting. Super important. Share with us one habit that you believe contributes to success.
I would say for busy students, being able to segment and do this extra stuff called SAT prep or ACT prep that you're not getting graded on. And that's an extracurricular activity that sometimes falls by the wayside. Steve, if you can make it your extra honors class, even though you're not getting a grade from Ivy Bound in how you do, you take it just as seriously, you will excel. Or if it's summertime and you will call it my part-time summer job. Not full-time, just give me 15 hours a week for 5 or 6 weeks, and I will get you well set. You can still do all your other summer activities and have a good time.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. What's one online resource that you absolutely love?
ivybound.net. And look, that's somewhat selfish, but we have very good content. We put more articles up than most of my competitors combined. And they're there to inform whether you're a student, whether you're an educator, or whether you're a parent of a student. And it comes for any age, from grade 6 up through college level. We prep kids for the LSAT and the GMAT too. So it's a good starting place. Yes, there's links from there to other good resources, and they won't waste your time.
Absolutely. We'll link to that in the show notes. What's one book that you believe no college applicant should be without?
The official SAT study guide. And it's published by the College Board. That's the book with these practice tests in them. There's an alternate if the ACT is going to be your route. ACT is just as accepted as a test as SAT, and that book is called The Real ACT Prep Guide.
No, great. Definitely some good books to check out, get those official exams. Now, Mark, what are you currently working on? What are you looking forward to?
I'm looking forward to what the SAT makers are working on, which is computerized testing. DMVs have it now, and some grad schools do computerized testing rather than paper-based testing. It's better for kids. Once this happens for the high school kids as they apply to college, they won't have to spend as much time in the test setting. It'll be a lot less daunting. Right now, there aren't enough reliable computer terminals in a school system for a whole big block of kids to test on a single day. So they got to work that out, and probably they'll have multiple days when you can test. There won't be just one SAT date for the month. They'll probably give you 3 weeks on which you could take a certain test. When that happens, I think kids will all be better off.
Absolutely, that'd be a welcome change. Maybe it's a while away, and I'm sure they'll be announcing that far in advance, but definitely something to be a lookout in the coming years. So definitely, I'm looking forward to that too. Very good food for thought, so thank you so much for sharing that, Mark. And thanks so much for joining us on College Admissions Toolbox. We're going to link to all the resources and books that you mentioned in the show notes, so definitely visit the website for that. And have a great one. We'll have to have you back on the show sometime. Take care.
Back when I was applying to college, I had a mentor who helped me a ton with my college essays. He gave me some great advice that helped me make sure I was answering the key questions that admission officers are asking themselves. And with his help, I was able to significantly improve my rough drafts and submit an effective college essay in the end. It's one of the main reasons I ended up getting into Columbia. And in my conversations with admission officers since then, they've told me several of the key questions they're asking themselves as they read your college essays. I just want to share a couple of them with you now. One of the big ones they ask is, are you involved in your activities because you actually enjoy them, or are you just doing them because you want to get into college? They're also asking if you've gone outside of your high school classes to learn and do research on your own. Another big thing they look to ask themselves is, have you demonstrated an ability to overcome difficult circumstances and distractions in order to succeed? They also want to know if you have the focus and the commitment and the drive to get through college, because it's going to be tough sometimes. These are just a couple of them, but in my premium college essay course, we'll help you make sure you're answering all these questions and many other ones that college admission officers are asking themselves as they review your college essay. You can sign up to get access at collegeadmissionstoolbox.com/essays. And before I sign off, I want to give you some advice from Anthony, a student I helped last year. He's now at UPenn, and he had some advice to share on answering the question about whether you're able to overcome those difficult challenges. He wrote to me, and I quote, "Write about mentors and hard work situations. I spoke very honestly about being inexperienced as an intern at a startup and what I learned from it. It's key to be honest about your weaknesses. Nobody's weakness is that they are too diligent or that they're always on time. Everybody has weaknesses. More importantly, what have you done to work on overcoming your weaknesses? So I want you to look at your college essay drafts again and have the people helping you review your essays ask themselves whether you're answering these questions and edit as you need to. Then email me your final draft at steve@collegeadmissionstoolbox.com. I'd love to see what you've written.
Thanks for listening to College Admissions Toolbox. Head over to www.collegeadmissionstoolbox.com to get more free tools and resources that will help you get into the colleges of your dreams.